Sometimes, small miracles happen at night. On the Polderhof in East Frisia, a new Friesian life begins. It's a baby stallion, and his first steps lead a little awkwardly, but significantly, towards his mother and her vital milk. What seems to be such a normal scene is in fact very exceptional, because the Friesians were within a hair's breadth of extinction. In 1913, there were only 3 stallions in the pedigree register. At that time, the situation seemed hopeless.
It is an incredibly wonderful feeling to stand here again with a foal and to be able to stroke it. If it's healthy, all the better and more beautiful. Well done, Zina.
Here he is, little Ike von Polderhof, one more Friesian. But aren't Friesians just quite normal horses? Why is it important that they still exist?
They're magical. They're, to me, the most people-oriented breed in general that I've ever worked with.
It's a very special breed with a special character.
They have a gentle nature. I call them the Harley-Davidson of horses.
They are absolutely beautiful horses with fantastic natures. They haven't got a bad bone in their body.
You can go with them through thick and thin.
Frisia lies close to the stormy North Sea, a region in the Netherlands. The horse owes its name to this district. Friesians have existed for a very long time, long before reliable historical records existed in Northern Europe. A very early source is a book on equine medicine from the Roman author Vegetius, which dates back to the 5th century. The transcription we see here is from the Bavarian State Library. Vegetius notes, thirdly, we should mention the Friesians, which are no less speedy and arduous. In the historical ranking of that time, the first and second places were held by the Thuringian and Burgundian horses. It was only in later times that the references appeared more frequently. For example, on the 15th of April, 1547, on a Frisian horse and clothed in a great coat of mail, Elector Johann Friedrich encountered his adversary, Kaiser Karl V, on the bridge at Muhlberg. It was surely not the fault of his Friesian that Johann Friedrich suffered a crushing defeat. Well into the 17th century, the Friesians were particularly highly prized for advanced dressage. In the 18th century, Friesians became famous under the name of hard trotters. It was the first breed of trotting horses in Europe. Only when the Orlo trotter and the American trotters arrived, they were much faster than the Friesian, and they did become unfashionable. And if you want to know another historical fact, something you don't normally hear, the progenitor of the Orlo trotter is Bars I, and his mother was a Friesian mare. With the decline of the nobility and the changing fashions, the Friesian horse continually lost its importance. The army and farmers demanded horses specially optimized for their particular use. Crossbreds were the order of the day, the thoroughbred Friesian became more and more endangered.
In 1879 hebben ze het
In
stamboek
order to
opgericht,
register the Friesian horse
om het
and use it for
vliegpaard,
breeding
te
purposes,
registreren en,
the pedigree was founded in 1879.
erbij kwamen.
Rescue for the Friesians came exactly from their place of origin, from Frisia. Thus, literally in the last minute, the prerequisites were established for the preservation of the breed. The Friesian, the horse of nobility, the famous European trotter, the favored learned horse of the riding masters, was now preserved as a farm horse in Frisia.
In de jaren 50, toen de trekkers, want ze werden vooral gebruikt op
In the 1950s, more and more tractors were used in farming. The horse became superfluous and was in danger of becoming extinct. However, many people got together and tried to save the Friesian horse from extinction. Thanks to this initiative, things started to look up again. The Friesian horse became known as a horse for sport and leisure. It was used more and more as a coach horse and a horse for riding. In the 1980s, it began to be used in shows and competitions. The Friesian horse became more and more popular, and breeding was more and more directed towards its use for sport.
En zijn ze ook steeds meer richting het sportpaard gaan fokken.
An example of Friesian horse breeding in the Netherlands today is the stud of the Boomsma family. With the Yillis 301, the Boomsmas own the oldest stallion in the pedigree register. Even a private showing of the 24-year-old star attracts many spectators.
This year is a special year for the Friesian horse. The stud is celebrating its 20th anniversary. In 1996, Abba, the son of Yillis, was selected for breeding purposes. Abba also fathered a son. It was called An. An also passed this test as a breeding horse in 2003. And this year, An's son, Reindar, also passed the selection process. At this stud, we now have 4 generations. This is unusual. It has never happened before in the Friesian pedigree.
For Tibbe Boomsma, his Yillis is much more than a stud horse. And he can grow old happily and contented. If it were up to me, he'd reach the age of 30 or even 40. And he'll never leave here. This is where he will stay. Here, where everything began. In Frisia, a tightly woven history between humans and horses exists. And today the Friesian horses are part of a living culture. But how does it look in other parts of the world? Our first trip takes us to the Spanish region of Andalusia. This is not as absurd as it sounds, because Friesians have Spanish blood in their veins. But are there Friesians in Spain at all? Yes, there are. Here is Manuel with his black horse. The appearance of the Friesian horse is spectacular. Here in Andalusia, the black horse had almost entirely disappeared. But today things have changed. In Spain, too, the Friesian finds more and more fans. Someone who set out to rekindle Spanish interest in the Friesian is Claudine Schwalm.
I saw the Friesian horses in 1984 under the management of Gunther Frohlich, one evening during a gala performance of the Hippologica. The lights went down, and there in the spotlight, 4 Friesian horses entered with their manes down to the floor. And then this crazy music by Alan Parsons and these colossal animals plodding through the arena. I got goosebumps all over my body at that moment, and I thought, oh my God, what a breed. I had never heard about Friesian horses before. I said there and then, I must have those horses. I want to work with those. And after exactly 1 month, I packed up my job as secretary, gave up my flat, and drove to Gunther Froelich and told him, I saw you in Berlin at the Hippologica, and I have to work for you. And then Gunther told me, okay, you can come. You get a room, 500 euros per month, but you have to work really hard. And I was so in love with the Friesian horses. Their majestic and powerful appearance, their elegance, beauty, radiance, the lot. And they are so calm and reliable. And then I gave up everything in Berlin and went to Gunther Froelich. And he found the first Friesian for me that was Diablo.
And this is Diablo today, 26 years old, a pensioner, and still very fit.
So Diablo went with me everywhere, from Gunther Froelich to Bernd Reiski's, from Bernd Reiski's, and finally here to Spain. So when this black horse piafs through the streets of Estepona, honestly, the people were just freaked out. They were wildly enthusiastic, and everyone was asking, what sort of breed is that? What kind of a horse? At that time, the Friesian horse was absolutely unknown in Spain. The curious thing was that no one guessed that, in fact, the Friesian horse has Spanish blood in its veins. In the 17th century, when the Spanish marched into the Netherlands, it was crossbred there with a Spanish horse. There were people who came up to the horse box, and a boy asked his father, "What kind of breed is that?" "Yes, that is an Andalusian horse. His 4 feet look inflamed. He is ill, isn't he?" And that's what they said to me. The people were fascinated by its beauty and its impressive appearance and its composure, but they had not the slightest knowledge of the background to this breed.
This is South African Lynn Higgins, riding the 3-year-old Victor, and is thrilled.
They're great to school. Victor, he learns by voice, and he tries very hard, and he loves to work. And anybody who wants a very good dressage horse, I would say Friesian Sport is the one to go for now. They have their own way of telling you when they've had enough of something. They will always go like this. They talk to you. They're very much a talking horse. And they're just beautiful with wonderful natures. I had an Irish thoroughbred mixed with a quarter of Arab, and she was really hard work because you have to try and make her into a show horse. I showed her, and she did very well amongst the thoroughbreds, but it's not the same. With the Friesians, I seem to be able to teach them far quicker because they're already made. They're made in body, they're made in action, the way they go, in their transitions, and in their looks. You don't have to do anything. They're made. You don't have to go and plait them up and make them all pretty for the show. They just genuinely are beautiful creatures who move very well.
We now leave Spain and travel again to the north, to Austria. Meter-high snow is nothing special in the small village of Vilsmoos. Here, the Friesians are also highly valued, although they actually come from the lowlands. But the horses are not only bred on the Pilshof, they are also employed as workhorses. Friesians cover distances of up to 50 kilometers a day as carriage or sledge horses in the mountains. Blacksmith and hotelier Peter Lochner is very happy with his Friesians. They do not need specific training. Just as other horses used for horse-drawn sleighs, they only need a period in autumn to build up their strength for this task. About every second day, and then a bit longer, until they are in the right condition. The difference is that here the horses are shod in a particular way. Icebreakers to break up the ice. And this rubber pad prevents the snow from seeping into the shoes. While the tourists prefer to ski and toboggan in winter, Peter Lochner maneuvers his car through the deep snow just as easily as his Friesians pull the sled. As long as I can remember, we have always bred horses. But when it comes to the Friesian horse, that is a different experience. One gets so excited. When the mare is covered, you want to see results the next day. It's incredible. And during the last months, you're so impatient to find out when the mare will give birth. Normally, I'm not that crazy, but in these cases, I'm always surprised how nervous I become shortly before the mare foals. It's incredible. In the course of my job as a blacksmith, I was on my way to a neighboring village in the Ramsau. And there I had to shoe a Friesian stallion. It was the first time I had ever seen such a horse. After he was shod, I let him run around to make sure I had done the job right. He ran so majestically that I thought, I want a breed like this for myself. For a short time, you may have some problems when you buy a horse directly from Holland, and you have to put it in a paddock straight from the trailer or lorry. In our case, for example, our paddock slopes somewhat. Then they run so high up the slope, they can't get down again because they're not used to the fact that suddenly everything is on a slant. One time in the mountains, we had a lot of fun. Friesian walked up the mountain with the other horses, but then it didn't dare to come down again. So it just galloped down. But the Friesian became so frightened that we needed 4 people to bring it down. That was the only thing, though. They get used to the slope very quickly. Los Angeles, California, the megacity on the Pacific, has a population of almost 4 million. Simultaneously with Hollywood, it is the world's film capital and home to many actors.
Real estate on earth. You ain't gotta sell crack, homie, cause you can sell dirt. From the Bay to Diego, then back to Sacramento, girls keep they
One
skin
of
tan.
whom is Jacqueline Colin. She came to love and appreciate the Friesians through her job.
Gotta get with 'em, but you can throw your hands up to this new California rhythm. California got streets to go.
Okay, the first Friesian I ever met and rode was in South Africa, and it was a Friesian named Arnold. And I didn't even recognize him as a Friesian. He was just this big, black, hairy horse. It was either the very last or the second to the last episode we were filming, because it was actually a TV show, not a movie. And I had been begging the producers to put me on a horse the entire time that we were down there filming. I'm like, look, you don't understand. My character is Irish, and the Irish are famous for being horsemen. And you've got an actress who can actually ride really quite well, and put me on a horse. We've got these beautiful beaches, you've got all these beautiful horses, put me on a horse. They finally agreed to let me ride in the last episode. And so the horse that I wanted, they had me originally scripted to ride a little chestnut mare, and I said, no, no. I want to ride Arnold, the big black Friesian. so that's what I got to do. And of course it was so amazing that, you know, they used horses quite a bit after that. But I wasn't on the show anymore. I just elected to stay home. So, and I'm glad I did, because that's when I got my horse. What really started my journey with Friesians was a dream that I had. It was about 12 and a half years ago, and it was in October, and I had this dream about being this medieval noble woman riding this big black war horse of my knight husband's. And when I woke up the next day, I couldn't get rid of the feeling, and that absolute magic and fairy tale feeling, and the whole dream in Camelot, and it's so magical, such a magical feeling. But I tend to be a little impulsive, so I said to myself, we're gonna wait. We're not going to be impulsive, and if January rolls around and you still have this feeling, you're gonna go look for that horse. January rolled around, my New Year's resolution was to find that horse, and I found Pagan, and it was love at first sight across a very, very crowded barn, and it's still a dream come true. The gentleman who first imported Friesians to the United States is a man named Frank Leyendecker, and he has a farm in Visalia, which is about 3 hours away from Los Angeles, where I live. And I went there, and it just turned out that that was the horse that he was planning on showing me that day. But I saw Pagan long before. I saw him literally at the end, very end of the barn. There's 20 or 30 Friesian heads all popping out to look when we came in the barn, but way at the end was this little head that pokes out, and I went, oh, I hope that's the horse, because that's the horse. And it was. I didn't say anything, but we just kept walking and walking and walking and passing by all these beautiful black Friesian heads, and went to that one, and I just knew right away. When I first got Pagan 12 years ago, I would ride around here, and this is a big horse community here where I live, and I would ride around and people would say, is that an Arab? Is that an Arabian? Like, no, no. Look at the feet, if nothing else, look at the feet. They just had no idea. They had no idea. There were, I think, 3 Friesians in LA proper when I first got Pagan, and now there's several, and people go, oh, is that a Friesian? Now they kind of are starting to recognize them a little bit more. They're becoming more popular. So, you know, if you're looking for a companion animal, yeah, Friesians are awesome. If you're looking for a fancy riding horse, you know, that's going to make people stop and go, ooh, ah, when you ride down the street, Friesians, you can't beat them. If you're looking for a dressage horse, there are a lot of Friesians that are competing very successfly in dressage. If you're looking for a performing type of horse, like what I do, again, it's really hard to top a Friesian. Of the breeds that I have worked with, they're so people-oriented. They bond really hard to their people. They're so willing to want to please you. You know, they're so just anything they can do to make you happy. They're very caretaking. They're a lot of fun, you know. They're a little impish sometimes, you know. They like to play little funny tricks, you know. But they're very smart. Most of them are really athletic. And even if they're not athletic, they're really willing to give you what it is you're asking of them. And they're just lovely, you know. I know some